In the last section, we put together one very straightforward solution for reversing a string. Now, it's entirely possible that your interviewer might say, hey, don't use the reverse helper, because obviously if you know this thing exists, it really makes the question quite easy and quite straightforward. So in this section, we're going to look at an alternative solution that's a little bit more manual work, okay? Now, just to keep a record of all of my solutions as we go through, I am going to copy this down to the bottom of the file and comment out our first solution, just to keep a record of all the different solutions we come up with. And then I'm going to delete the contents of the reverse function. Okay, so let's talk about the second solution. This second solution is going to make use of a for loop. So we are going to create an empty string, and we'll call that thing maybe reversed. I think that's a reasonable name for it. Then we're going to iterate through the string that was provided. And for each character in that string, we'll take that character and add it to the start of the reversed string. After we iterate through the entire string, we'll then return the variable reversed. So essentially, we're going to make an empty string. We're going to take each character out of the original string and stick it into the new one at a time. And because we are adding the new character, or excuse me, because we are adding each character to the start of reversed, the reversed variable will contain the reversed string. So let's see what this solution looks like. All right, so back at our code editor, we'll start off by declaring a temporary variable that we'll call reversed, and I'll assign it an empty string. So this is the string that we're going to kind of assemble over time as we iterate through the string variable right here. Okay, so now we need a for loop. One thing I want to mention about for loops in general, and I'm going to tell you this many times throughout this course. Wherever possible, I really recommend you avoid writing for loops in the kind of very classic syntax. In other words, the for loop syntax that looks like var I equal to 0, I less than string dot length, I plus plus. So I really recommend you try to avoid for loops like this right here. And the reason for that is that there's so many tiny little spots inside of here that you can very easily make a mistake or make a typo. For example, maybe you accidentally flip the less than sign right here. Maybe you actually accidentally flip it the other way. Maybe rather than looking at string.length, maybe you accidentally looked at reverse.length. Maybe instead of semicolons, you put in commas instead, which is honest to God something that I accidentally did on an interview one time. So whenever you use this long form for loop, you're just introducing many different locations where you can accidentally make a little typo. So for us, throughout this course, wherever possible, we're not going to use this classic for loop. Instead, we're going to use a new syntax for loops that was introduced with ES 2015 called the for of syntax. So let's write the code for it and see what it looks like. I'll say for let character of str. So that's the string that we got passed in as an argument. Then in the body of this loop, we'll say reversed equals character plus reversed. Then at the bottom, we will return reversed. Okay, so let's talk about what's going on here. So again, this is a new syntax for loops. We say for a variable declaration. So I'm creating a temporary variable that is redeclared every single time through this loop of character. Then we say of, and then the iterable object that we want to iterate through. So in this case, we are iterating through all of the characters of the string variable right here. So we're going to iterate through each character of string one by one and set each character equal to this temporary variable character. We then take that character, add it on to the start of the string reversed, and then after the entire for loop, we return the string reversed. So again, in general, I really recommend you make use of this new and improved loop syntax rather than attempting to write out the full for loop by yourself. Now, there are several questions out there, and I should say actually many questions out there, where you can't use this syntax because maybe rather than iterating through every single element inside of a string or an array or something, maybe you want to iterate through every third element or iterate through every fifth. There are interview questions that require that type of logic. And so if you are confronted with needing to loop through every so many elements within the array, well, then you do have to go back to using a for loop or even a while loop for that matter. However, as much as possible, I do encourage you to try this new and improved syntax. Okay, let's save this and see how we're doing. I'll flip back over to my terminal, and it looks like we're still passing here as well. Cool. So this has been a second solution. This one's a little bit more manual and something that I would probably expect you to be asked in an interview question. I would really kind of expect that any competent interviewer might say, oh yeah, don't use reverse. That's just too easy. All right, so this one is a little bit more complicated. Let's continue in the next section, and we're going to look at one more possible solution. So quick break, and I'll see you in just a minute.